Bora hey, Army! Welcome to week 7 of the BTS Comeback Glow Up Project. If you're new here, my name is Dinah. I'm a Hobie bias from Houston who is trying to stay committed to her intentions for 2026 using BTS as inspiration. The goal is to add one new good habit each week or eliminate or replace one bad one for the next 3 months so that by the time Arirang is out, I am a happier, healthier version of myself. And I'd love to have you join me. This week's habit was inspired by the August D song Snooze. I know I'm not the only army who feels immense comfort in hearing Yoongi in the post chorus repeat the phrase Gwaenchanajil Geoya, which translates to everything will be okay. The other part of this track that resonates with me deeply are the lines, it's okay to feel overwhelmed. If it's too much for you, you can take a little rest. Cry out loud when the world gets ugly. When the hand that greeted you turned into a pointing finger, you can take a deep sigh and shout, this shit is fucked up, because you are no different from anyone else. I love the fact that Yoongi is giving us permission to feel our feelings, to be sad when the world is cruel, to scream when we're faced with injustice, and to rest when we're overwhelmed. He goes on to say, you will fully bloom after all the hardships. So, inspired by these ideas, this week we're working on emotional resilience through self compassion. As a society, we've begun to wake up to the importance of mental health, and that's a very good thing. The problem is, I see very little information on how to care for my mental and emotional well being beyond the general advice to get therapy. And while I do believe in the transformative power of therapy, I'm also interested in finding ways to cope in the moments I'm struggling, to stop beating myself up when I fall short, to face difficult feelings without getting stuck in them. Honestly, the vulnerability BTS shares with us in songs like Black Swan, Spring Day, and Fake Love has taught me more about processing difficult emotions and giving myself grace than the many, many articles I've read about mental health. That and the books Self Compassion and Fierce Self Compassion, both by Kristin Neff. So, this week, we're exploring habits to help us develop emotional resilience and learn to love all of ourselves, even the imperfect parts. If you're skeptical about the term self compassion, please understand that it's not the same thing as self indulgence. It's not about letting yourself off the hook or being a snowflake. It's about showing yourself the same compassion you'd show a friend who is struggling. Rather than mercilessly criticizing yourself, self compassion suggests you offer yourself a little kindness when you feel inadequate or make a mistake. I don't know about you, but when my judgy inner voice berates me, it's actually not motivating or helpful. The best thing about self compassion, it helps us process those difficult emotions. Rather than ignoring our pain or getting carried away by negative thoughts and feelings, self compassion encourages us to pause, recognize that things are hard, and comfort ourselves in the moment. As RM said in his 2018 UN speech, maybe I made a mistake yesterday, but yesterday's me is still me. I am who I am today with all my faults. Tomorrow, I might be a tiny bit wiser, and that's me too. These faults and mistakes are what I am, making up the brightest stars in the constellation of my life. I have come to love myself for who I was, who I am, and who I hope to become. So, what does a self compassion practice look like? One option is to make use of the guided practices on the Self Compassion Institute's website, which I'll link in the description below. Depending on what you're going through on a particular day, you might need a tender self compassion break, a motivating self compassion break, self compassion for stress or burnout, or something else. There are 18 guided practices of varying lengths on the site. Another strategy is to keep a self compassion journal. The idea is to write down anything that you felt badly about, anything you judged yourself for, or any difficult experience that caused you pain that day. For each event, use mindfulness, a sense of common humanity, and kindness to process the event in a more self compassionate way. I'll put a link in the description to a full explanation of this practice as well. You might also choose to do a daily loving kindness or metta meditation. This practice focuses on cultivating unconditional love and compassion toward yourself and others. You simply ask, may I be safe? May I be happy? May I be healthy? May I live with ease? And then extend that goodwill to others, eventually expanding that circle to include all beings. I'll link to a YouTube video of my favorite 10-minute loving kindness meditation led by renowned teacher Sharon Salzberg, as well as an article with an explanation of the practice and step by step instructions in the description below. I encourage you to do a little prep work to make your self compassion practice run smoothly. Step 1, take the self compassion test. Assess your current level of self compassion on the Self Compassion Institute website. The test uncovers your overall level of self compassion and identifies what skills you need to work on from among the three components of self compassion: mindfulness, common humanity, and kindness. I actually thought I would do okay on this assessment. Yes, I'm hard on myself sometimes, but I didn't think it was too bad. But I crunched the numbers and my score was so low, it was scary. So even if you think you're pretty self compassionate, I'd encourage you to take the test to verify that. Step 2, collect essential resources. If your self compassion practice involves writing, you'll need to find a dedicated notebook or journal. If you plan to use a guided practice, watch or listen to a snippet to ensure that the teacher's approach to self compassion resonates with you. Step 3, decide when to practice. You might choose to make a loving kindness meditation part of your morning routine, or set aside 5 minutes of your lunch hour to listen to a guided self compassion practice, or write in a self compassion journal every evening. Alternatively, you might decide not to plan a specific time, but commit instead to taking a self compassion break in those moments you're overwhelmed by big feelings. Step 4, choose some go to BTS tracks. Consider leveraging Bangtan's discography to process difficult emotions. In addition to Snooze, I have several OT7 go to tracks that remind me I'm not alone in my feelings of grief, rage, and despair. Sing along and feel those feelings because the only way out is through. In a society where we're taught to deny our feelings, it can be challenging to, one, identify specifically what emotions we're dealing with, and two, find the language to describe those feelings to others. I consider myself to be pretty good with words, and yet I really struggle with journaling about my feelings or even naming them for myself as they arise. Yes, we're all familiar with the basics of happy, sad, and mad, but if we dig a little deeper, we might discover some nuance, also known as emotional granularity. When life is good, you might experience joy, contentment, gratitude, relief, tranquility, or some combination thereof. When you're hurting, you might experience anguish, despair, hopelessness, sadness, grief, or some combination thereof. When you feel wronged, you might experience anger, contempt, disgust, hate, self righteousness, or some combination thereof. Brené's Brown work has given me the language to talk about what I'm experiencing and move through difficult feelings more productively. And it's so much easier to make sense of what I'm going through when I can name the experience accurately. If you too are struggling to name your feelings, consider downloading Brown's list of 87 human emotions and experiences as explained in her book, Atlas of the Heart. I'll include links to the emotions list and the full book in the description below, along with a planning worksheet for those of you who dig that sort of thing. And as always, I want to hear how this works for you. Let me know what self compassion habit you're considering in the comments below, and feel free to DM me if you have questions or want to share your experience. I'm at Dinah Kate on Discord and at Stars Thrown In on Instagram. I'll be back on Wednesday for a progress check and Saturday with next week's new aim.